morning. It's 10:02. We'll call this meeting of Wichita County Commissioners Court to order. Everyone please rise. This time I'd like to call on Commissioner Watts to give the invocation.
Pray with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this opportunity to come together as men to discuss the needs and concerns of our county, Father. And we'd ask that you be with each and every one that's hurting today because of the Hurricane Harvey and those that are displaced from their homes, those that have lost loved ones, Father. We ask that you be with them and guide and direct their thoughts. Father, be with the first responders that are in harm's way this morning. And as those prepare for Hurricane Irma, Father, we just ask that you give them direction and wisdom. Be with them and keep them from harm's way. Father, we pray for our men and women overseas that fight to protect our freedoms. And Father, all of the terrible woes that this world has today, we just ask that you touch them and hold us in the palm of your hand, Father. Forgive us of our sins where we fall short. These things I pray in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner. Y'all join the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the Texas pledge.
I honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Take your seats, please. I could ask the court to look at the consent agenda. I do want to clarify some things on item number 10.
I had that one circled. Judge, I actually had 3 questions here just for clarification purposes.
Okay.
Item 2, I just wanted to make sure I understood that services contract for child welfare.
It's one we've done for several years. It's through the district attorney's office, and it does provide some reimbursement for the cost of the prosecution and handling of those child support cases.
And does that money reimburse the district attorney's office, or does it?
It goes back to the general fund.
Okay. So it is money that can help fund things like CASA.
Well, it goes strictly to offset to what we have spent. In other words, we get back 75% of what we've spent on the eligible expenses.
It doesn't make us whole, but
No.
isn't that the account
I'm sorry, it's 80%.
that had built up, Judge, over
No,
here?
that's not
That's
the
not
one.
it. That's what
No.
I was thinking.
Qualifying cases.
Yeah.
On qualifying cases. It's not a great deal, but every little bit helps.
You bet.
Sure. And then the item number 8, what was our new deadline for rebidding that work after we've now had the asbestos study?
I think, Willie, were you able to get that in the paper? I didn't look this weekend to see if we've got that out, or it'll go out this week to bid the asbestos.
It'll be this week.
All right.
And it's actually bidding just the remediation of asbestos
Right, and then we'll go back to
with the other.
with the other.
Okay.
No one wants to touch it with that unknown in there.
And then item 10, I thought that last week's tower motion or item was to cover the payments for the initiation of the tower site rent. It was an $8,000.
Yeah.
Is this in addition to that, or
This is, I think, I'm going to have to look that
or
up
is
again.
this a different tower?
No, it's the same one, and this is probably the monthly fee now based on, The addition.
After we
'Cause, yeah.
caught up.
yeah, because we had that, it was not in the budget to do that because we didn't know when we were going to attach something. Unfortunately, putting that dish on there triggered the whole thing, not just, the dish was only $30 to add it, but if you added anything, then you paid the basic amount also.
Okay, gotcha. I just wanted clarification on that. I'd make
Yeah.
a motion.
Hang on just a second, but before we do that, I don't believe that's correct for that payment, come out of the limited tax note. I'm thinking there's some prohibition against using that for rental. And there was an email from the auditor suggesting that come out of general fund contingency.
Well, then let's just make a motion if it's
If it's not eligible to come out of limited
Correct.
tax, then it would come out of general fund contingency.
yes, sir.
And then the other part of that was, that's really not an EMO expense under 406. That, if they had the antennas on there for the system, that would be one thing, but that's really an IT expense, so it ought to come out of 412, but it may take transfers from permanent improvements.
I saw that
Okay.
note about that.
So we'll change that 406 to 412 and reimburse from general fund contingencies if not eligible.
So with those notes on item 10, I would, to be included, I'd make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Okay, motion by Commissioner Watts, second by Commissioner Beecham, to approve the items as presented with the amendments to item number 10. Any other comments or questions? Derek, just one thing on that Savins contract. I forwarded an email down to you all on that, on the victim identification deal, that the state is balking on that contract. We could lose that service if they don't get some of that renegotiated.
Which one is this?
Item number 11.
I will look into that, sir.
Well, they just sent an email. I'm pretty sure I sent the sheriff and you both that email, but if not, I've got it if you want. I'll send it to you. Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 1 on general business is review and approve the emergency and regular bills for payment.
Motion to pay our bills, Judge.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Muller, second by Commissioner Harvey to pay the regular and emergency bills. Any comments or questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Discuss review of jail maintenance projects and work orders. Lieutenant?
Yes, sir. Sent out the report last Friday. We have no overdue work orders. We have scheduled the work for the downtown kitchen project. That's for middle of October. This is the soonest they could get that in for that many days. So, other than that, you guys have any questions?
I don't really have any questions. I just got to say I'm proud of you. Really proud of you.
You got a good crew,
Absolutely.
real good crew.
Well, this has become the norm.
Yeah, it is, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir. Okay. Discuss and consider any take action on remaining outstanding construction issues with the firing range. Commissioner Harvey?
None.
None.
What do we lack to consider it
Gravel.
functionable
No, it's functional now.
so they can shoot on it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Just need to do some
Clean up and some gravel.
clean up a little gravel, spread a little gravel. But we're mowing right now, so there's no hurry on the gravel. It's all good.
And Devin, would you mind to give us an updated and maybe show what's outstanding? Okay, thank you.
Deb is working on that. I asked her last week
Oh, okay.
to bring that together so we can have a final total on that. Hopefully a final total on that. And then the other thing, Chief, we're going to need to work on, if others are going to use that range, we want an interlocal agreement on all of those, and I don't know if y'all have any luck finding anybody that's got one, or we could maybe use the cities that they offered us and draft off of that. Okay. Okay, just item number 4. I'm going to break a second. Steve Garvey's here. Did you have anything for us, sir? I didn't know if you were waiting for public comments. Those are normally at the end, and I think we're going to have a longer session on one of these. Didn't know if I said Garvey, that you're not the TV guy, you're Garner. Sorry about that.
I don't mind at all.
Yeah.
And this is my first time in the court. Thank you very much, Judge. Do I stand here or where do I stand?
There's a microphone. If you'd come on up
I
and
mean,
get
I got a lot.
No, if you come up
Put you
with
on
the
record.
microphone, that wasn't a suggestion.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
My name's Stephen Garner, citizen of Wichita County, and I thank you for the time to speak. I'm up here on item number 4, and the first comment I'd like to make is this is my first meeting in a commissioner's court as a citizen, and as a citizen of Texas, I want you to know how thankful I am that it was opened with prayer and pledges. It's an example for courts around this country, so thank you guys for that. I'm here about the selection for contractor for the jail. And as a citizen of the community, I'd like to encourage the commissioners to look at the recommendation made by the select committee that you appointed. I'm sure that each person on that committee was selected for reasons that you thought were valid. And I think the information that they were given, the reviews that they made, and the decision that they came to was done with thought, preparation, information that was pertinent to the decision. And I think that those decisions made by that group should be taken into heavy account by this Commissioner's Court as it pertains to the selection for a jail that this county desperately needs. And I thank you all for letting me come and speak my mind. I trust that the decision that you make will be the one that you're comfortable with, but you also take into account the information given to you by the committee that you chose. And thank you all.
Steve, I guess that one wrong. I thought you were going to talk about the lake, which I think is a great project. Well, and you could probably get carried away on that.
I appreciate the opportunity for this forum for that lake project, but I think everybody in here knows my passion for that project, and Mr. Watts is right. I could spend most of your time talking about that.
But thank you for your comment on it. We don't often get enough participation from the audience to talk about items we have on the agenda. So, all right. Okay, item number 4 is discuss, consider, take action to approve the construction manager at risk selected by the Law Enforcement Center Advisory Committee. We did hear the recommendations last week from our architectural firm, from Harker Perkins, from Mr. Perkins. We went through a process trying to figure out how the court could discuss this in closed session, but council brought back they didn't think it qualified for closed session, and under the bid laws we're limited from in some of that discussion to discuss the actual scoring, is my understanding from council. And I guess I'd ask the court is
I had a question for Ralph or Linda,
Okay.
if I could. When we select a manager, what is involved in the negotiation to close then our agreement? Is price enter into that? Does rounding of price?
Basically, it's negotiating the contract, part of the contract is fee and general conditions and all the things that are going to be a part of that contract.
That's what I didn't quite know. It was just one of the many aspects of consideration, and then I didn't know when you actually negotiate that. And will y'all be a part of that, Ralph?
If you want for us to be, we generally are a part of that with whoever the court appoints, legal counsel, in terms of going through the contract. And obviously, it's legalese, so we've got a lot of issues to have to iron out relative to the contract and the general conditions of the contract. And
Has there been a standard agreement that you've used in the past as something we could go ahead and let Meredith be reviewing?
Yeah, it's the AIA document. It was sent to all bidders.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty open to everybody, but some of them came back with a few things they wanted to ask about. Those are the things that we will. Now, when it comes to the contract actual negotiation, we might have one or two members deal with them, come back. Then I believe that does qualify for that to be in closed session with the court and with the contractor and with Harper Perkins to get down to the point of either agreeing on a contract or rejecting that and moving to the next one on the list.
In the proposal to the contractors, the general conditions are included the standard general conditions, as well as supplementary general conditions, as well as the form of contract. It's not necessarily a contract, but it's the form of contract. We have to fill in all the blanks, make any modifications at the end of the day. So all of that is the next step.
Okay. In this natural disaster and in the face of the second one, how is that going to affect us? Typically, does it have a contractor impact and material impact to us?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You know, if you remember back in the last one they did Florida, we basically couldn't buy sheetrock hardly for months. And I'm sure with 130,000 homes damaged in that Houston area, ever chipboard factory is going to be running full speed 24 hours a day just to try to provide what's needed there, much less whatever is commercially available, street repairs, asphalt, concrete, reinforcing steel, all of that's going to be impacted.
There's no way to buy insurance to hedge that? If we paid $200 a pallet for sheetrock and it climbs to $1,500 a pallet, there's no way to hedge that?
Well, you know, we can bid out materials and systems ahead of time, you know, to go ahead and pre-purchase those things. If you know what it is, if we're far enough along that you know what you're going to be dealing with, it can be done. It's a little bit of a fast-track process.
And is that something the contractor themselves actually?
That they actually basically make a recommendation of that, because, you know, let's face it, you know, we're talking about years of recovery. So it's going to be a big bubble at first and then start tapering off. So by the time we get plans and specifications ready to finish the bidding process, some of that stuff may have already passed to some degree. It's going to be a long time. We know that from the tornado. We know that from the flood that we've had. So, you know, those are issues that we've experienced personally.
There was quite a variation in these presentations as far as the fee was concerned. Are you telling me that that's still to be negotiated, or is that fee firm? Is it in place? There's certainly wide enough variation in there that it caught my attention.
It's still negotiable.
I think it's, you know, it's negotiable to the extent of what's included in each of those things, fee and general conditions. That'll be part of the discussion process and the contract negotiations. It's totally understand, and I don't, you know, we've tried every method in the world to try to make sure that we get it narrowed down to where we understand completely, but at this point, you know, there is some variation. There will be some negotiations, but that's just part of that process.
Well, it's a big process and a long deal. It's just that we've just spent the last 4 months looking for an amount of money to cut from our budget that we could turn around and give back up in one transaction here, and that got my attention. So I know it's not the only factor, but it's a very important factor when we're dealing with the taxpayers' money.
Well, and that's true, but one of the things is we did not rank the fee amounts and general conditions amount any higher in the selection process. That is important. I'm not going to diminish that at all. But what's more important is the qualifications of the company that you're selecting. We tried to put that emphasis there.
Ralph, a little on the edge of this process, and I know they'll begin before we realize it. The engineers, and Kerry's attended most of our sessions, or Kerry Jr., and have we identified any easements out there at all, to your knowledge?
He's not speaking specifically for him, but as I understand what he's reported, he's identified all the easements that are recorded in the courthouse. So we don't know of any more, but that doesn't mean that there may be some deed issue that's not reported.
And everything that has been reported to this point by them is all manageable stuff.
Yes.
And it brings me to my final point, title policy, and the smartest way for us to handle that, because we're faced with a large decision on top of here to deal with that in the most appropriate manner, and we're going to build a $70 million facility on top of $1 million piece of property. And to determine the value that we purchase a policy or the need to purchase a policy, because in essence they're going to do the same thing the engineers have done and identify what is recorded. Outside of what's recorded, they're not going to have any more advantage than anyone else.
Unless someone can point something to them that's not recorded by deed or by easement with the utility company.
What is your recommendation on title policy?
I think we're way past the title policy place. I mean, wasn't that supposed to be done at the time of the purchase?
Yes, we felt like that it was a part of the original deal back in '92.
Well, it says it is, not felt, it says it is.
And it just failed to happen.
It didn't happen, that's fine.
But adverse possession, I think, could be dealt with in any manner because of a length of time we've owned it. Now, what it wouldn't address, if Phillips Petroleum has a 12-inch pipeline way underneath that property, they didn't record it in Wichita County for whatever the reason, and then they say, can you scoot your jail over?
Well, if it's not recorded, though, how does it have standing? I mean, how would you go and, that would be my question. If it's not reported, I wouldn't think that it would have any standing in the discussion, because that is the standard. So, I don't know, but we want it to be right. I really
Even so, Ralph, had policy been provided at the time of closing in '92, it was $1 million policy. And Phillips Petroleum line underneath there, unrecorded, or that we found ourselves in court with, we're dealing with a $70 million structure that we only can call on $1 million for help from our policy. So that's it's a dilemma to me as to what is the...
It didn't give you any relief, really.
No.
Well, there's nothing, you're way beyond my thing.
Put your lawyer hat on.
Yes.
But, you've had that property for so long.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you all are saying, do you go buy a title policy for $1 million and you're spending $70, is this just penny wise and pound foolish, or whatever term you might want to use?
Well, and nothing surfaced over the past 20, 30 years, I guess, hasn't it?
No, and I think if there was an air issue of any type, that would certainly be to our benefit or not be a problem. It's an easement that would have somebody come in with a court paper on that wasn't handled correctly through the recording process.
Wasn't filed.
Wasn't filed, or
and that
whatever
happens.
that
happened.
That didn't.
Well, there are pipeline maps all over this county. Maps of other pipelines, and y'all have seen, piper clubs out there flying those lines all the time to see if there's any leaks or anything like that. So, I don't know what my recommendation is that you just move on.
Well, there's lots of deadlines out there that aren't on anybody's map.
It's not something of great concern that would cause you any heartburn, really.
Well, Jeff, it probably showed up when they did the one call, when they did the engineering survey out there. They notify all the pipeline companies in one call. So if there's any pipeline through the property, they would notice that.
That is a good deal. We've got a clearinghouse now
Yeah.
that connects to all
And it's a
that.
lot cheaper to reroute a pipeline than it is to move a jail.
Well, true, there's just
I would hope.
expense involved, and, it would be...
Yeah. Like a McDonald's.
I just wanted to understand that from an architect's perspective as to how that, or the thought process is on that, because I would feel better if we were setting even on that $1 million policy that cleared us a long time ago, but we're not, and it's something that has real cost to it, about 50,000 per million. So it can add up in a hurry. And
Well, I know you've got a tremendous amount of work that Big Matthews has done that could be available to, and they can work with the title company, and this is the direction that you all decided to go. But Gary has not mentioned anything of any concern that he, I mean, there's some of those easements, they're blanket easements, you know, although we know where their sewer line is or where the electrical line is, even though there may not be a defined width. That may be something we can go back and negotiate to be sure that we don't build into what they think is their easement. That's the only thing that I know of that might be a little bit of a loose end at this point, is just exactly what width those easements take up.
but they've had their hands and their eyes on it long enough now to have predetermined if they felt like there were any issues.
I think they've been working on 2 months.
Yeah.
Over 2 months.
Okay.
I think that you would have identified something that he was scared of.
Okay.
We did get to visit Lubbock Jail last week. I had concerns about Yates' ability to do the construction after visiting that facility. The construction quality was very good. Did have some architectural flaws, so I'm very glad to have got to see what those architectural flaws were and not repeat the same mistakes twice. But as far as the construction and everything, I did not see an issue, and that was a question that was looming big in my mind. So.
Yeah, it looked finished. It looked like they had well budgeted and been able to start and finish in completion there. And I noticed that because that aspect had stood out to me while we were in Tyler, that I felt like it was maybe the ball had changed at some point towards the end and they were cutting back. And so I was proud about that. And it's interesting to know, I feel like our design is so much more user-friendly, builder-friendly. It's under one roof, cost-effective. We don't have all that open space in these quadrants that are nice, but they still leave a lot of room there. And so I'm proud of what we've developed, and I know this group has worked hard to pull the plan together and make it flow. And
I felt lost in that building, to be honest. It was, once you got in there, you were turned around and never found north. So,
I have maybe not so much at Collin. One of the things that when we brought up when we returned to committee meeting was that our floor concept be work as a directional flow, but I could not determine while I was in Lubbock exactly where I was at any given time.
Ever.
And at Tyler, I had a little bit of the same struggle getting back to the front door. Mm-hmm. And so I'm anxious for ours to have a more of that user-friendly for the person that's...
It's a north, south, east, west flow. I mean, it's very, very simple, very space-efficient design, so...
Which, for Wichita Falls, we probably need a turn head. There's nothing else. It's north, south, east.
Nothing's exactly straight. We got at least 2 degrees. We got to tilt the building.
I think we discussed, and when we came back, we were and had enjoyed where the jailers actually take their break, and that concept and design. Ours was already structured at a good flow place in the facility that could come in and out. And we looked at their different concepts, which we liked, and so I was excited by what we saw, and knowing that ours is even going to have a better niche to it that's going to be unique for us. So,
Sheriff, what I didn't see in there was the expense for the segways.
No, we're trying to keep the workers' comp claims down.
Your new physical fitness program will work well there. That's a
yes, it'd be a.
You have those 2 ramps down that main corridor. That could be a lot of fun. So.
Well, that's why we're going to put chairs with no wheels on them in there, because we know what boys do. We've seen
How many
it.
spins can you take 30 mile an hour?
But I'm with Mark. I really was pleased with what we saw and just felt like that the overall project had been completed and there was concern on one contractor, and I believe potentially our vendor of choice too, that brought issue up at the tail end of that job that I don't know how we handle that necessarily, but something we'll want to discuss through or talk about.
We found out the names of the security folks, and that will be avoided at all costs.
Okay.
Okay. Other comments? I'm sorry, Richard.
I'd like to just kind of visit with Steve for a minute about our committee.
Yes, sir.
Our committee, when we put them together, the intent for that was to make sure that we designed a very well-functioning jail. And the people who run our jail, Lisa, Sheriff, Derek, we put them on that committee to make sure that what we needed, the jail, how it needed to flow, what size we needed it. We needed this many holding cells. We need this many book-in places. We need this many, okay? That's why they were placed on that committee, okay? Their input was so valuable to our architects to help them design something that was really good for Wichita County, okay? In my opinion, that was the intent of that committee. None of those folks have contract experience or construction experience. We should have reevaluated and put together a separate committee for the selection of our contractor, someone who understood the construction world, okay? So if this court doesn't abide by their recommendation, it's not because we would be indignant to them, because their value came in the design and construction of the jail. But in the construction end of it, the contract end of it, the cost of it, probably should have had a separate committee with people on it who were versed in that area. So I want you to understand that we appreciate them and we value them, but it might not be that this court goes with their recommendation on the contractor, not necessarily because we're just being ugly. It's just that we look at it different than they did because of our life experiences. Okay?
I understand that, and I thank you for your comments, Commissioner.
Okay.
I'm not sure I agree with Commissioner Harvey, because when we gave the charge to that group and set it up, that was within the scope of the charge to them. So that's at least my view on it. Okay, is there any recommendation from the court?
What can we recommend? What are we allowed to do here?
You have three companies.
Okay?
You can take the committee's recommendation and go with that recommendation. Okay, or you can make a motion for a different one. The court can vote on it, either support that or turn that down and go.
Well, after reviewing all the score sheets and noticing some substantial errors in them, I didn't go back and recalculate the total after those would have been fixed. But bottom line is we had three very, very qualified contractors, period. And we had strong recommendations from the city of Wichita Falls. On the contractor that built our airport and built our VOTEC Center, you can walk out there and you can see they're absolutely beautiful. So we know what we have here is three great contractors. What it boils down to now is how much does it cost us? And looking and crunching those numbers with Willie, the low bid is by far Trinity Hughes. So my motion is that we select Trinity Hughes as a contractor for our construction manager at risk.
Is there a second?
Second.
And I would also make a motion that we
Well-
go with the,
No, we've already got a motion,
Okay.
second. If you want to say
No,
something,
no.
Commissioner, go ahead.
What, comment, Mark?
comment.
Yeah.
We do have a recommendation from the committee that was established, so.
I'd agree with that, and while I will agree, Commissioner Harvey's recommendation has shown a great deal of experience in the building, the kind of things they do, building quality products.
All three of them.
Yeah, 3 outstanding.
Two of them have more jail experience. And the one that was selected by the committee is the middle in the cost, that is negotiable. The real item, you know, when you look at also some of the things included in the one bid with M&F, the cost of the work and the other costs, they include more of some of those things listed as options. It throws me, and Ralph said, you know, we put out a standard list, but then the companies switch them back and forth. So some of that is there. Even if you take that and you take the amount for pre-construction cost, I will agree that Trinity is the lowest, but they, even with SUNT, they do not have the jail experience in Texas that either of the other two companies have. And the fact that our recommendation, the committee's recommendation, had 4 first-time passes by the jail commission says a lot to me. And the fact the committee went since last week and looked at the finished product in Lubbock and was very impressed. I support the committee's effort there. I think it's worth it to see that through and give that a chance. So.
Well, the Sun people have built a bunch of jails, California, Arizona, and I believe if you get down to it, it's a lot easier to build a jail in Texas than it is in California from all the bureaucratic
But
stuff. So,
you're assuming that.
Well, the score sheets on the matrix were not unanimous,
I mean,
but the process was in place.
well,
Commissioners, any other comment? Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Judge. I appreciate the acknowledgement. I have a question on point of order, and again, this is my first experience here, but I would like to know, as a citizen, my understanding was that the court was going to take action on the recommendation first. And it appears now that you're going to take a vote on a separate motion. And as a citizen, I'd like to understand why you're not going to take action on the recommendation first as opposed to a second motion.
You know, I'd have to agree with that. I was, and Mr. Garner, thank you, because it says, discuss, consider, take action to approve construction manager at risk selected by the Law Enforcement Center Advisory Committee.
Yes, sir.
So we probably would need to vote that up or down first, and then go to you.
I would go ahead and make that motion, Judge.
Second.
Commissioner Harvey, you understand that?
that's why I asked you, I said, what are we allowed?
Oh, okay, okay.
You know, because the way I was reading that, does anybody need a motion?
Okay.
What can we motion?
Yeah.
And that's why I asked.
Okay. Well, I was trying not to cut you off.
No, that's okay.
All right.
I'm just
I
trying to do
appreciate
what's
it.
right.
Well, if that
We
one,
all are.
Yeah.
We all
if that
are.
one
This-
passes, it's moot point.
This is-
So, you know.
Okay.
And I just want to add that I do feel what Mark said on the committee. I am a part of that committee. Mark's been my backup as well as the judges there as well. We've spent a tremendous amount of time starting at 7 in the morning. Thank you, Glenda, for always having us something to eat. But we've spent a lot of time discussing this matter. None of us take it lightly. None of the commissioners take it lightly. And everyone's been extremely involved and thoughtful. I go with what Commissioner Harvey says. We couldn't mess this up because we had 3 terrific contractors that throwed their hat in the ring on this deal, and I was excited by all of those, and I was just glad that we didn't have any that came that were out of left field. So I was pleased by the process, and it's been grueling, but we've gotten to a point where we understand and soon can see some drawings
I agree with Commissioner Watts. It's been a long, grueling, arduous process, and while my personal recommendations do not agree with the committee's, being a part of the committee, I have to go with that process.
Okay. All right, thank you all. Steve, thanks a lot for pointing that out.
Do you think
I'm sorry for my
that's fair to the
oversight.
taxpayer? Are
Okay.
you trying to be fair to the committee or to the taxpayer? Who's your priority? That's my
Well,
question.
the taxpayer's a priority.
There you
The
go.
process was in place.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Beecham, second by Commissioner Watts to approve committee recommendation. Any other comment? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-2. All right, thank you all very much. Okay, item 5. Discuss, consider, take action to approve APUs of Texoma LLC quoted dated August 29, 2017, amount of $18,500 for a backup generator for the electric tower site to be paid from 2016 limited tax note fund budget as established by the county auditor. Commissioner Beecham, you've worked on this.
Yes, sir. The original quote for that project was $39,400.
Yeah.
So we dropped a little over $20,000 off that original quote by working with the electricians to find out exactly what the load requirements would be. So I would recommend that we accept that new proposed bid of $18,850 or $18,850.
And I'll second that because I think that's a great savings.
That's a turnkey job.
Okay, we're going to put Beecham on negotiating the contract with CMAR.
There you go.
Hang on, guys.
We can't lose. We've got 3 great contractors. So
Yes.
we're in good shape.
Okay.
Find my $1.5 million and I'll be happy.
Heck yeah. Me too.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Beecham to accept the item as stated, seconded by Commissioner Harvey. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Judge, I wanted to point out, I guess it was the first of the year, we were at school and saw the large generators in the container boxes loaded on, remember that?
Where were we at?
Maybe Austin. But
It was Austin. It was Austin.
something, their backup generator was down and they brought those in as
Portables, they're portable.
Portables.
They're on semi.
Those came in from Prime Equipment. And
Okay.
they were an actual 1853-foot box van looking trailer, but it was solid generator.
Right. And I noticed yesterday, before I forget it forever, I had to go to Hall of Texas, right downtown Dallas, and there's a Caterpillar yard beside them, and I could not believe how many of those rental or sale generators, all the way from pickup size up, were in that yard. And of course, that may change here pretty quick. with this
Yeah, it's
storm.
probably empty today.
But if we ever needed something, the capacity to handle the jail or help or whatever the case be,
Phone call away.
Caterpillar, and
Very
that's
valuable.
close, you know? So I mean, I was shocked that there was probably 6 of those big semi-units, and then they went down from there to 20-foot units and.
When the refinery went down, we had 180 of those big units running the refinery. So it's pretty
They
impressive.
used to station some of them here back during the oil boom whenever they needed them to do backup, but I don't think they're keeping any on location here anymore, but they're available and they're within, what, 4 or 5 hours?
Yeah.
Probably, just about anywhere.
I just wanted to throw that out there in case we find ourselves looking, but Mark, I appreciate you working and going through to clarify the quote that was given and why we needed what we had to pull off of that tower. This is going to be, it'll keep the sheriff's department up and running by radio contact and be able to keep internet. We're already able to run precinct 4 with power, but this will give us internet capabilities there as well, so.
Give us plenty of expandability.
Well, as I was gonna say, it's a big enough generator that we can add stuff to it if we want to.
Well, and that is the plan on that law enforcement radio system we're using at the site.
We thought it was overkill when we first started discussing it, really, at the first deal, so that's good move.
It's still overkill, still plenty of overkill.
Still plenty.
Yeah. but you never know, Commissioner Harvey might want to have a cookout up there and plug in.
We
I
still
got a
do.
220 griddle now.
Okay. All right, any other comments on this item? Okay, the motion by Commissioner Beecham, second by Commissioner Harvey to approve the item as stated. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. All right, we're down to staff reports. Anyone in the audience? Right.
Judge?
Yes, sir.
I would just point out on that item 11 up there on the consent agenda, I couldn't find an email related to
Okay,
that. So
thank you, sir.
Derek, on that note too, you and I, there was something that was told us at the jail tour, and it was about, it could happen after the bonds were funded, about applying for money or something,
I'll have to go back and look.
and I didn't want to forget about that for us to check on.
Notes.
Because we are soon to be funded, but we have sold the bonds, so I guess we're at that qualifying point for whatever the program. Oh, maybe it was the program about the programs that we did.
You talking about on those rehab type programs?
The rehab programs that were going on in the jail, maybe it was a qualification of reimbursement from somebody when you're indebted to fund or build the jail. Can't remember, Lisa, and Derek and I heard it, and I said, matter of fact, we are now considered, because
some of that may have been the discussion about the reimbursement from the marshals, because now that
maybe that's what it was.
You can include your debt in the daily rate that you charge them.
And Sheriff, on those programs, do you think? Are they taking advantage of some money somehow by paying their programs out of that commissary fund that would not otherwise be eligible had it come out of the general fund?
Possibly.
I wondered about that because that seemed a little bit.
Yeah, I read the same thing you were reading, so it's possible that that's what they're doing to be able to recoup some of those funds back to the county.
These were, for y'all that don't know, these were more hardened inmates that had actually been pretty tough or severe problems that were going through an educational process that dealt with art as well as other things as well. I was thrilled or really pleased with what I saw, how these guys had come around and their recidivism had reduced. That went through that program. Yes, and so they had actually had a mind change happen. They had to go through a rigorous process even to qualify to get in the program. But whoever's doing a diligent job of educating them in that program, blown away by the artwork. I can't tell you how talented, and many times we see that, I guess, but other aspects as well of that, I just thought great concept, and they have helped their own pocketbook, because the guy that gets out and comes back in 20 times is only costing us money.
Yeah.
It was fascinating to be in that room, especially at lunchtime and sitting down with what we would consider the worst in our facility.
Yeah, and there were 7 employees that helped with programs in the jail, and this was one of 2 that we saw, and that all I know of they have, but 7 employees that were funded out of the commissary fund to make this difference. And that's what the sheriff and I were talking about. Why exactly did they do that? Probably to qualify maybe for some other monies that, but nevertheless, it was very valuable. I think that both the jailers bought into it, and I knew the inmates had bought into it. And then we saw an MR training program that they were working with as well. Seemed like it was successful, but yeah, it just, over and above what you normally would think about.
The astounding thing of everything, 48 inmates in this pod, under the control of one DO, and it was a female detention officer that probably weighed 120 pounds. It- They were in compliance, 100% in compliance.
And that program was,
Unbelievable.
people that come in from the colleges were doing their clinicals there. They had to do clinicals.
That's right.
And so it was volunteer.
Yeah.
So they weren't paying those people. These are people that are going through the
Yeah.
programs in those colleges for psychiatric help and psychology majors, that they had a steady lineup coming through every 3 months, every semester.
Yeah.
That they were coming in, and that's what the key was, to get those inmates on that track, and that was just unbelievable. They were coming up to get those
Sedentary
meals.
rate,
Just,
you're
yeah.
doing something right, and
You
that's
say
real.
it's 7 or 70?
7%.
I thought you said
Once they go
70.
through the program, only 7% of them were returning.
Yeah, out of 100 guys that flowed through, only 7 come back.
Yeah.
So that's 70% reduction, right?
No,
It's
93%.
93%.
93.
They teach that kind of math in Burke.
I was doing percentages.
Bulldog math, wasn't it?
The bulldog math.
So that's,
Speaking of bulldog math,
those are real dollars that save our community if we're able to
Exactly right.
do a similar program.
And MSU has those people do the same clinicals here.
Yeah.
So that's something we definitely want to look into.
Not only dollars, it makes our community safer. Much
Lee,
safer.
I think their quarterback was on that same count Friday night too, I believe.
Was a eye-opening trip, so.
But Lisa, on yours, if you go that direction, I want to be on, and Steve Garner will volunteer as well, I know, but there were social aspects, those guys, I noticed, that they grab a fork. There's some guy-to-guy training that could go on there that could really help. Where does your tie supposed to hit you at? That kind of thing when you go to a job interview, that really would, I'll certainly talk on that part as well, and I know other community people that would be interested also.
That's true.
Another thing that struck me about that whole facility was the moment you walked in the door, you were being instructed on expectations, and all the way from the inmates to the DOs, all the way up to the sheriff, followed the exact same protocol. Before the sheriff walked into a room, he asked permission. Everybody followed the same set of rules and guidelines. So I'm just blown away.
Definitely,
Commend Sheriff.
it's a behavior modification for everybody, to see how it works.
Yeah. So if we could duplicate that, our community would be a much better place.
Even our jail staff who've never been to one that got to go, they just blown away by it, and they're all on board now. And so, which is good, because now they're back telling the other employees, hey, this is something we definitely need. And we hope to take some other trips out there with some other regular detention officers to go see that and stand there and just do the same tour we got to go through and understand it. It is unbelievable. Those inmates with the MR issues, that was just unbelievable. It was just unbelievable how because right now in our facilities, we have someone that has an MR issue. He's housed with the regular guy through classification. And we've seen it. We've seen those other inmates take advantage of them, assault them, rob them, actually watch robberies. And we filed charges on the guy, but this guy's getting stitches and everything else has gone wrong with him at this point. And
We have no other choice, right?
we have no choice right now. That in a new facility, to have something like that, it is a difference on behavior, so help those people.
Keeping them off the streets, once they return back into society,
Yeah.
keeping them from reoffending, I guess. I
Right.
should say.
Yeah, reoffending.
And
Keep them
coming
straight.
back, get them coming back is just an amazing thing. And to see that firsthand.
I strongly believe once this facility's up and running, we're going to see a huge difference with the people that do come to the jail and how they don't return. And, right now, it's just a wrong door. We're seeing it now. These guys that got bonds that are lowered so low, they're coming back over and over and over. They haven't been to trial of court for the first offense. They're 6 times back in since they felons. It's just the way our system is right now. I think it definitely changed our community.
Well, and what really stood out to me was, what we have today is Wichita County Jail, and we kind of view it as such, but what I felt like we were inside of was that sheriff's department's facility, and they were very proud of it. You know, and they just showed, they were part of a lot of aspects of it. Our crew today will be a part of seeing it come up and come together. That made a big difference, I'm sure, but they had ownership of that place. That was good.
Just to reiterate, it's not a Cadillac jail.
Right,
No, Cadillac.
no, it's just,
It's about flow, though. It's that flow.
it's about flow.
Flow and
It's concrete and steel.
concrete, steel, and it's behavior, how to change their behavior within the walls, which is substantially saving taxpayers money, damage and repeat offender, the things that go on behind the walls that people don't see every day.
I think one of the biggest things that we could do to help our inmates and our staff is to put some noise reduction in that building, throughout the whole building, so that when you've got a nut screaming, you know, every 5 seconds, you can't hear him over here. You know, the other inmates are calm, because it is so noisy in our jail. It's unbelievable
Well,
how loud
and
it
we
is.
saw that, Lee, we saw some sounds, when we went into the main lobby, we felt like it was beautiful, but it was a little bit hollow. But then when we got into the actual cells, there were sound stuff that they had put up for that reason, and you didn't hear that, you know, shrill. And
Yeah, it's just,
it absorbs quickly.
45
it
minutes.
just makes you
and
tired being in there, because it's
Yeah.
so loud. There's
Yeah.
no quiet,
No quiet.
no quiet.
24 hours a day, it's unsafe, it's unsafe. You don't know what's happening with some
Right.
people.
Okay, let's get back on track. Good discussion, but we're getting back to it. Commissioner Beecham, do you have anything to comment on?
I want to thank Steve Garner for putting on the event yesterday that I didn't get to be part of. I did watch it on Facebook, so very proud of what you're doing with Lake Wichita and with that part of the community. It's a jewel in the rough, and it's going to be a diamond someday thanks to your efforts, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Richard.
I gotta admit, I just have to admit, whenever it started, the Lake Wichita project started, they needed a gazillion dollars. I went, well, we don't get that. You know, ain't nobody gonna cough up that. Man, I was wrong. Hey, people really want that project.
Yes, they do.
They are backing it with their money. I'm very, very proud of our citizens, absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. I'm proud to be part of the revitalization committee because it's filled with people just as passionate as I am about what this is going to represent to our community, and I'm so thankful that we are where we are today.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, Steve got to go down and represent us in the national election, and I've never seen anybody more excited to get down there and give them the what for. He was really pumped. Now, one thing we do have this week is this Thursday, September the 7th, is Texas Only Gives. And again, I'm old school, and I thought this social media stuff, wasn't nobody gonna do that. Well, about $700,000 later, I was wrong again. So this will be our second year of Texas Only Gives, and I'm not sure that we're not gonna blow $1 million or blow that goal of $1 million this year. A lot of people are getting on board. People give different. You know, in my day, I wrote a check, put it in an envelope, mailed it in. Well, that's not the way it's done anymore. People are shooting you money on their phone over here, and it's left me behind, but I can still write a check. But old school sometimes can sit back and learn from the kids, because they have figured this stuff out. So anyway, this Thursday, give your favorite charity. Give to several of your favorite charities. And what is, hang on. It's Thursday night. I'm gonna get this wrong. Wichita Falls Area Community Foundation is having a dinner. It's fish fry in the Parker Square parking lot where their new office is, and I think it's 6 o'clock, maybe 7. Anyway, it's gonna be good, really good. Our local fire departments are coming together to feed for that. It's their way of giving back to, Wichita Falls Area Community Foundation. They fund about 19 counties worth of volunteer fire departments, through Wichita Falls Area Community Foundation. Some of those are in southern Oklahoma, but those firefighters are gonna come together and say thank you. So that ought to be good. You'll come out and eat.
Mr. Malt.
I want to say special thanks to Henry Forsham and the BCI for getting their Midwestern Banner program going in downtown Wichita Falls. I've always thought Midwestern State was a tremendous asset. It's been kind of forgot about, and this community is just not taking it up and embrace publicizing MSU and supporting MSU and moving that into the downtown area is tremendous. I went to the unveiling on Thursday, had a great crowd. And then the Mustangs go out and just got after them Thursday night in their opening ball game. That helped. So I'm proud of BCI for picking that up. Once again, build this community, and that's one of the ways you do it, is get involved in that local university, and it was a great event. I was glad to be there.
Well, Commissioner, give Ann Arnold props on that too. I know she worked long and hard on that program.
That ain't her name no more. What's her new name?
Ann Arnold Ogden.
Ogden. Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Watts.
Ramisha, is she here this week from Texas Association of Counties on
Yes.
the Blue Cross Blue Shield?
No, it's next.
15.
The 15th. One of the things that I wanted us to investigate, and I guess, have we established when we are going to act on the consultants that have submitted their RFPs? No?
Yeah, I thought we'd do that. We need to do, the 11th, I think, is going to be fairly full. We could do it then, or we could do it later in the week.
Okay.
But I want to give everybody a chance to read through those.
Yeah, and there's a lot of material to look
Yeah.
at. I didn't know, I thought this morning, I couldn't remember if we had decided on a time to bring that together, but one of the things that, and I visited with John Little on Thursday or Friday, that hit me was, and John's one of probably several that we have, that I don't know what the change of insurance, how that impacts him. Hung in the midst of battle. And so there's got to be some advice about that kind of thing that we need to understand well. We assume everyone's the same, but it's different.
But I think your deductible, everything starts over January 1st. So depending on how we do it, but we've got some decisions, but we don't have that on for discussion, but we'll get that. But we've got a fair amount of ground to cover with those.
Yes.
And all of them push back the enrollment time that we may have to revisit that. Okay. Anything else, sir?
No.
Okay. We do have other meetings this week. We do have tonight is a public hearing on the proposed budget and tax rate at 6 p.m. in this room. And then on Thursday, we did have a scheduled meeting, but it doesn't appear we'd have a quorum at 10 o'clock, and I think the desire of the court is to go ahead and cancel that. Then Friday, we have the traditional review and discuss emergency and regular bills. Then we'll have Friday be the last day for any submission on the budget prior to us considering. And we've got a pretty good laundry list of considerations. I went over that this weekend. I've still got a couple more to incorporate. The question is now, do you all want to come back at 1:30 and see if we have any departments show up, and we could do that just briefly. And I had a couple of things I wanted to get your clarification on.
Sure. No,
Nothing major though.
Either that or do it later this afternoon ahead of the hearing.
Yeah, we could.
We're at 6 o'clock here anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm on it just to.
Yeah.
Y'all want to do that?
Like
Yeah, 3:30 or
3:30?
Yeah, might be.
Well, we're already
posted.
recessed.
We'll recess.
We're saying we're going to reconvene. So we'll reconvene at 3:30 then?
Yeah, and prepare for the.
Yeah. That reminded me, Judge, you said that, Lee, we have, Judge Sons wants to visit with us about the
Auto pay?
auto pay inquest deal. And I want to make sure that Willie's visited with us about, because Willie had some good thoughts concerning a way to track and monitor. And so far, everything has been coming together real well on the devised plans that different departments have had. Mark Newman and CMOs, which is all of our JPs working together, have seemed to pull those inmates out quicker. We've reacted to not being able to make bond or resetting bond, and that's been a great benefit to us. And so this will be helpful to maybe reduce the autopsy fees.
Okay. Okay, it is 11:08 and we'll recess to 3:30. I appreciate you all